Good evening, everyone. I'd like to invite you to our commission meeting tonight. It is November 9th, 7 p.m. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for 10 seconds. We always do that at our commission meetings, just to keep silence if there's anyone that you would like to think of at this time. You may be seated. And would you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor McCall,
Here.
Commissioner Hanna,
Here.
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Here.
Commissioner Helsberg,
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here, thank you. At this time, I would like any of our veterans who are here tonight to come forward as I showed you before. I appreciate that. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Doughton. Take your time. They came on the bay, so they can't do anything. I have to come up here. So, every year during the week of Veterans Day, we celebrate our veterans. And Veterans Day is very important to me because my father was in World War II, and he was in the Battle of the Bulge. He had 2 Bronze Stars and also a Purple Heart. And so tonight, what I would like to do is, I do a little ceremony. The commission is very nice, and they enjoy it too, I believe. And they're very patriotic, and we love our veterans that are in our community. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to start with Phil Hanna, who is a commissioner. And Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about what was the service that you were in? What service were you in?
I was in the United States Army, and I was a captain in charge of what's called Class 3 petroleum. We refueled tanks, helicopters, planes, cars, trucks, private vehicles, anything we could get away with.
And how long were you in?
6 years.
6 years,
Yeah.
okay. And this is Commissioner Denise Hosberg. Denise, what service were you in?
I was in the U.S. Army.
And how long were you in?
I was in for 3 years. I basically kept secrets.
You kept secret.
I kept secrets. Still do.
And Mary Catherine, what division were you in?
I was in the U.S. Air Force. I was the second female firefighter ever in the Air Force. And I had 7 long tour overseas and 4 short tour overseas, and I spent 22 years and 9 months in the Air Force. Retired November '96.
And I don't know if you can see this, but this is her picture when she was in. I thought that was so awesome that she got her picture. And this is our beloved Father Tom from St. Jerome's. I'm so happy he's here tonight. And Father Tom, what service were you in?
I served with the United States Navy Reserve, Chaplain Corps, with the Marine Corps during Desert Storm.
Tell us what service that you were in.
I was in the United States Marine Corps for 5 years in the infantry with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines.
Okay. I'm so happy you came today. So tell us what branch of the service that you were in. Mr. Vaughn.
Okay. I was in the U.S. Air Force, and I served for 4 years. and I could not get out of the States. I was put in for every overseas assignment that came along, but we were training people to be instructors, and I was stuck with that job.
And this is Mr. Bruce Dutton.
Yeah.
Now, that's
Where's Greg? Is Greg around? Come up here just for a second and help me with this one, because this one has several. Let me have you hold this one, because this is for several people that we are going to, and these, these are deceased veterans that we know either throughout our community or people that we have cared about. So the first one is, I want you to tell us about your dad.
My dad was a Navy Reserve for a number of years.
Okay. And Matt Loader wrote a post today, so I told him that I was going to remember his father, William Loader, who is the original owner of Krabby Bill's, and he was a Korean War Marine. And of course, I mentioned my father, Fred Mostyn, who was in the Army in World War II and was in the Battle of the Bulge. And I also want to mention Kevin.
Kevin, my husband, was in the Marine Corps for 12 years. He was jumped out of perfectly good airplanes. I told him that's why I joined the Air Force, because I would wait until they land. So, and he passed away in December, so he's with us today.
And to any of our commissioners, is there anyone that each of you would like to mention tonight that was a veteran or is with us or has passed?
My father, William McCall, U.S. Navy, passed many years ago, and also my father-in-law, Dan Weisenhofer.
Awesome, going. And I'm giving each of you a pin, where did that go? There it is. From the City of Indian Rock speech, because I'm pinning you with our city because I think it's important from our city to you how much we care about you and this moment on Veterans Day. My father always told me that you never forget all of the work and the courage that you did, that all of you did to even be enlisted, and all of the many places that you've seen and probably things that you haven't told us about your service. So from Indian Rock Speech, I hope that you remember being here with us, and I sure will remember it. And with that, we're going to introduce you to Curtis
And Lana, and I have a 100-year-old father who served in Pearl Harbor when it was bombed.
Wow.
And I hear about this every year.
Yeah.
And the story is all so wonderful because he was so young and he dated Lana Turner. And he named me after her. And that is a true story.
So we have this special for everyone tonight.
Okay. Oh, is it on? Do you want the link?
Nope. Uh-oh. Put your
Put my what?
sound in.
It's in.
It's a different one.
You have to bear with us. We don't have our professional equipment tonight. Okay, let's see. Here we go.
If tomorrow all the things were gone that I've worked for all my life, and I had to start all over with my family by my side, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died that gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend you still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt
relatives or friends too. We really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Yes. Thank you,
Middle?
Curtis.
Middle.
Oh, do you have enough room to get us all?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Nice, lovely. Thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you for that. First up on our agenda item number 1 is presentations. And if the report of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, if you would like to come forward at this time. We always have the sheriff here a few minutes before if anyone would like to talk to the sheriff privately.
Tough act to follow.
That was.
Mine's going to be a lot less enjoyable, probably. Big highlights this month in Indian Rocks Beach. We had a total of 13 arrests. And as it usually stands, the people who get arrested aren't people who live here. They're people who come to enjoy the beautiful beaches and lovely things that the city has to offer. And then they get a little out of hand, do some crazy things, drive when they shouldn't, get in a fight with their loved ones. So the biggest thing, there were 13 arrests. We did have some issues with some of the transient population around the CVS going in, doing some shoplifting. And CVS, sometimes they want us to arrest them, sometimes they want us to trespass them, but we had a couple issues with some shoplifters at the CVS. Had 4 DUI drivers. We had one of our deputies was bitten by a subject at one of the beach accesses, but luckily didn't break the skin, and we had a handful of trespass after warning. So that's usually when somebody's been asked to leave an establishment. They've officially been told in our presence, please don't come back, we don't want your business. And usually they're under the influence of liquid courage. They leave, they come back, and then subsequently end up going to jail. But outside of that, it's a beautiful city. And it's not the residents here is the great thing. It's the people coming to
That's great.
vacation. So.
Is there anyone who has any questions for the sheriff?
I wanted just to thank you guys. You go into these situations and you can have kinetic interactions you're not expecting, and to have someone, coming at you, biting and stuff is, we appreciate the work that you all do. That's not a pleasant situation to be in. So thank you.
We greatly appreciate it. We get a lot of the times, even for those of us who work midnights, we're working 6 at night till 6 in the morning. Or a young man who was up here, he works from 7 at night till 7 in the morning. When people are out walking their dogs and 2, 3 o'clock in the morning or right before the sun starts coming up, 95% of the time it's a wave. Good morning, deputy. How are you? Thanks for being here. So the community definitely does let us know that we're appreciated, and it's the loud few that get most of the attention because it's the silent majority who tends to be quiet about it but still let you know you're appreciated.
Okay, else have any questions? Are we going to get to meet Sean tonight, our new?
You can. He
Yes.
seems like he's hiding in the back, doesn't he?
Yes. This is one of our new sheriffs.
Hi, I'm the sergeant now, and nice to meet you all. I'm here with Corporal Duncan, just trying to learn the ways of the meeting. So, just want to see how it's done tonight, and hopefully I'll present next time.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. Thanks for having us.
The report of Pinellas Central.
Whoa, I have a question about the sheriff.
Well, you don't like comments.
We don't have comments right now.
No, this is to the sheriff. I have a question to the sheriff.
You can go to the back and have it.
No. They were camping on the beach. I called the sheriff. I want to know what the sheriff is going to do with it, and I want the city to know that I called the sheriff.
Okay, well, when you have your 3 minutes, you can come.
No. I don't want my 3 minutes to go with a problem with the sheriff. I have a problem
Don,
with
that's
the sheriff.
enough tonight, okay, please?
No, tonight I have a problem with the sheriff. I just
Okay,
want to
well,
clarify.
we're done with that.
What?
We're done. Okay, 1B is report of Pinellas Central's Fire
Okay,
Rescue
they can
District,
camp on the
and
beach.
it
It
is
doesn't matter.
online if
You know
anyone
what?
would like
The
to
heck
read
with
it.
it.
And then we will go to public comments, which are for 3 minutes. And any member of the audience may come forward, give his
No,
or
they
her
can't.
name
They
and
can only say
address,
what you want them to
and
say,
state,
okay?
and any comment or concern that he or she may have regarding any matter over which the city commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the city commission shall be made to the city commission as a whole, not directed to any individual city commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the city commission. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to come up and state their name and their address, and they have 3 minutes to speak?
Don House, 2104 Beach Trail. I think it's obscene the way that we are not allowed to communicate and say, as long as we're not a member of the cult, we're not allowed to say what we want to say. We have a problem with camping on the beach because of the ordinance that y'all have passed. Even Adrian, who is a member of y'all cult, has called it the 21st Avenue Campground. She has pictures of semis parking there, camping there. I called the sheriff about camping. Nothing happens. I'm tired of it. I had other things for my 3 minutes, but I am so frustrated with the fact that we're not allowed to say anything if we're not a member of your cult. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Is there anyone else who would like to come up at this time? You have 3 minutes to speak. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing, and we will go to reports. We will start with the report of our city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. As you may be aware, the legislature has begun to convene the preliminary process for the 2022 session. They've begun filing bills, meeting in committees. There's a few bills I'd like to highlight for you just in terms of things to track and monitor, and that my office will of course keep you updated on. The first, there's a companion bills on short-term rentals. It's Senate Bill 512 and House Bill 325. Those bills maintain the current preemptions that exist on duration and frequency. They expand that to preempt on the regulation of advertising platforms, i.e. VRBO, etc. It maintains any protections for communities that passed preemptions before, or protections before June 1, 2011, that magic day that we talk about. But for those who did not, it limits their ability to regulate the short-term rental industry. It also, but it does allow local governments to have registries and require registration, which is pretty much the basic element of what we have here. That bill is, those bills are being tracked. They do have a companion, which having a Senate and House bill companion is an essential part of getting to pass the legislature during session. There's a separate short-term rental bill, House Bill 6033, which would repeal the existing preemptions altogether. It has no companion in the Senate. No real traction or action that seems to be taking place on that one. There are two other bills that are of particular concern. As we've seen with each session, the legislature seems to become more aggressive and direct in its preemptions of local government. The current companion is Senate Bill 280 and House Bill 403. The shortest thing I could say is that, one, this was originated with the senator who's slated to be Senate President in 23 and 24. That's relevant because when leadership proposes something or future leadership proposes something, it tends to move. And what this bill would require is no fewer than a dozen different findings by a local government before it passes an ordinance on what the financial impact is, grounded in some kind of statistical analysis, how it will be implemented. All these, when we talk about whereas clauses in the past, the Senate Bill 280 goes well beyond general findings to making sort of like an unfunded mandate in formalizing your ordinance process at a level that might work for cities of a certain size, but certainly not most Florida cities that operate like yours, 2 to 4 miles square, 4,000 to 8,000 residents, things like that, the resources. It's a staggering proposition that communities who wish to pass ordinances would be subject to these various requirements. Similarly, a particular concern that's been filed, it does not, to my knowledge, have a House bill corollary yet, is Senate Bill 620. Senate Bill 620 would require local governments to compensate businesses for business damages caused by any municipal ordinance or charter provision that causes a reduction of 15% of revenue or profit. Pick your metric. They would have to provide some kind of documentation to substantiate that. If you are sued on this for failing to settle or otherwise entertain the claim in some kind of settlement posture, if the government loses in a trial on the matter, they are subject to attorney's fees and costs, in addition to the exposure for 15% of revenue or profit. The approach to this is sort of like a Bert Harris for businesses instead of for property owners, so you have a diminution in value. You submit your claim to the city evaluates the claim, and there's a settlement posture, either tells you it's going to compensate you or not, or find some kind of arrangement between the parties, and if not, then you go to trial with exposure to attorney's fees, costs, and the like. That's been referred to the Judiciary, Rules, and Appropriations Committees. It does not, again, have a House corollary yet, but there's been some indication following the Florida League of Cities publications that they anticipate it will find a companion, but that's not been the case yet. So the simple fact remains that the work you folks do day in and day out is critical. You are the closest to your community, but it's important that your constituents understand, and you understand, that your ability to regulate is diminishing by the year, by the session. And the sort of things that people come to you and say, why can't you? They grow and grow. And I would, at this point I'm editorializing, but the current trends are eliminating the ability for us to preserve Euclidean zoning as we know it, and that's referencing a case where these things are here and those things are there. When you've got your business damages, your home-based business preemption from last session, 509032 on short-term rentals, recent Bert Harris amendments and the like, it gets increasingly difficult, and if nothing, at least a chilling effect on continued legislation from local governments. So something to monitor. If you're involved or inclined, the Florida League of Cities has its legislative action committees and alerts if you just want to stay up and you don't want to wait for your city attorney to get you the next memo or speak at the next meeting. You can sign up for their alerts on where those bills and others are going. Outside of that, continue to work with management on a series of matters as we look towards, crazy to say, but we're already looking towards the next year and the agendas and priorities to accomplish, and as we have updates, I'll provide them. And I'm available for any questions you might have. Yes, Ed?
Can we send a letter to the people who are chairing those the legislative committees that are requiring the statistical back up for the legislation, requesting that they have an exemption for small towns? Is that something that we're going to be able to do?
I can certainly draft something for this body's review or consideration on that.
And besides, I'd also like to send it to Representative DeSiglio, just for the fact that I met with him yesterday, and again I saw him today, and on both of these bills, 280, Senate Bill 280, and then also House Bill 325 that has to do with the short-term rentals. And he is monitoring it, he knows how we feel, he knows that, you know, how are we to adapt our ordinances to this kind of thing, and what is the impact analysis, how much is this gonna cost the cities. So Randy sent over the Florida League of Cities comments on, we're talking about 280, Senate Bill 280, and so I think that's a great idea, Ed, but I'd also like it to be sent to Representative DeCeglia. And he is not on any of the committees that will be going to, but once it's on the floor, he will still have to vote. So, just so you know. Is everybody in agreement to that, to send letters to?
It sends a direction for me to work with the manager to get something
Perfect.
together.
Perfect. Is that all?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Greg, our city manager?
Yeah, I submitted a written report, but
Right.
if I could just have 2 minutes in light of the one public speaker we had, I'd just like to clear a few things up.
Okay.
Just for the benefit of the small group we have here tonight, and more importantly, you know, all our meetings are put on the internet. The public has the ability to speak during the 3-minute public comment section. In addition, and Cookie pointed this out earlier, in addition, and we've done this now for 3 or 4 years, the public has the ability to speak to the sheriff's office representatives prior to meetings. And also, City Hall has email addresses, phone calls, etc. I made a note of the gentleman who spoke earlier about the 21st Beach access, and I'll follow up with Captain Lyon about that and see what's going on. I will tell you that we've dealt with several individuals that have parked campers, motorhomes, not for lengthy periods of time, but, you know, like one night. That's not allowed by the city code. We just resolved the issue on the 12th Beach access.
Correct.
If we don't know about an issue, we can't resolve it. It's not a good idea if you're all worked up over a complaint to wait to a monthly city commission meeting to come in and bring that up. You know, I work pretty much 7 days a week, and I'm available, but I will follow up on that. And the reference is frequently made about a cult. I'm not sure what that is. I'm the cult of action. in the way we deal with things, and I will follow up, and y'all all get a report. Sometimes people allege that the sheriff's office has been contacted about a particular situation in direct reference to the 21st Beach access. I'll get a report and I'll send it to you. But if we know about it, we'll deal with it. Yeah, you can park a vehicle up to 3 days at a beach access, but you can't sleep in it. So if we got a camper or a motorhome, that's not gonna last. But just wanted to clarify to the citizens that are here and the people that will watch this later that, you know, we're available, but if we don't know, we can't act. So, you know, I'll give y'all some feedback on this. And I did submit a written report, and happy to answer any questions that you have, because I'm available.
Anyone have any questions for Greg at this time? No.
I just have a comment. Despite the uneasy interaction that happened, I think it's very notable that you heard the complaint and you're going to act on it. That really shows a caring attitude towards the city residents. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. We'll go to the city commission now, and we'll start with our good friend Ed Hofnagel, who was the chair of the Oktoberfest. That was just outstanding.
No, I thank the city for all the support for Oktoberfest, all the volunteers. Many of you here were volunteering, thank you, and look forward to having that Action 2000 put that money to good use to improve the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Ms. McCall? Vice Mayor?
Hey, look at that. Just real briefly, just so I was involved. I wasn't elected chair, which is very nice. Just involved with the Taste of IRB.
Which was awesome also.
Yeah. And again, just like Ed, the city, especially Bob Ashley, was just outstanding. Took care of things I forgot about. even after I ran it for many years. And but yeah, I thought the attendance was fantastic. The feedback we've gotten from the vendors was one of the best events they've had. You know, just sales-wise, meeting the people, getting back out. I did notice we must be growing it a little bit because I looked across the crowd and didn't recognize a lot of folks. There were a lot of locals, but there were a lot of non-locals there. So that's great. They got introduced to the city and a lot of the restaurants up here, up and down the beach. And, you know, we did run into, just wanted to mention, we did run in, you know, just to some issues. Even our local restaurants didn't have the staff to be able to come out, you know, because it does take quite a bit to start to cook outside and put an event on. So we actually got, you know, broken board, and Frank Sheva stepped in, and a lot of them helped us put on a really great event that, you know, kind of outside our borders per se, caddies and so forth. And then, of course, these events cannot go on, honestly, without the generosity of the Loader family and Krabby Bill's. They took a very nice sponsorship position with us, and you know, to all effects so far, it looks like a very successful event.
Thank you, Joe.
As far as I know.
Commissioner Hanna?
Just to echo what these guys have said, it's a wonderful time of year in New Rocks Beach in the fall, is all our events. But I think, moreover, it's only possible because of volunteerism. And we have a tremendous amount of people that are a member of A2K and homeowners and Kiwanis and anything else that turns out to make these programs successful. And it's great.
Thank you, Joe.
I just want to know when the next party is.
And also the Hollowfest. We had the Hollowfest
Yes.
for the kids, so that was really awesome. And we have the women's tea on Saturday. If you have not gotten a ticket, it's from 1 to 3. It'll be at Church of the Isles, and that's a great event. We always do 3 charities, and I love it. It's a great. This year we're going to be celebrating our entrepreneurs from our community. And I just, since you're here today, I'd just like to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. We're looking forward to it and being with our families. With that, I'm going to go to agenda item number 5, the consent agenda. Randy, would you read?
I wanted to just tack on an addition.
Yes,
I had
sir.
a follow-up question to our workshop, if I could just have a couple minutes at
Yes.
the end, just to ask about the.
Absolutely. Go ahead to 5A, our consent agenda.
And the topic is,
Oh, I just had a question about the Pinellas County loss assessment that we had a workshop on. I just had a follow-up question, that's all.
Turning to item 5, the consent agenda, Madam Mayor, there are 2 items on the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the October 12, 2021 regular City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, resolution number 2021-09, calling for a municipal general election for the purpose of electing at-large qualified candidates to fill the vacancies of the mayor commissioner seat and 2 commission seats for 2-year terms for Tuesday, March 15, 2022.
Thank you, Randy. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve as read.
I'll second the motion.
Dean? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to our public hearing, 6A. Randy, would you please read the first BOA case number 2021-11?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The first item on the agenda in the public hearing is Board of Adjustment case number 2021-11 for 110 14th Avenue, considering a variance request from section 110-131 sub 1 sub f sub 1 of the Code of Ordinances of 5 feet into the required 25-foot front yard setback, resulting in a total front yard setback of 20 feet to allow for an expansion of the existing porch and garage on the front of the house for the property located at 110 14th Avenue in New Rocks Beach, Florida, legally described as Indian Beach, revised block 29, lot 5, parcel number 01-30-14-4203-002-90050. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. In a quasi-judicial hearing, this body is not making the law, but rather applying the law while being dramatically lit. to the criteria there.
Just give me some light switches.
To the evidence being submitted before you this evening. Before we begin, has any member of this body had an ex parte communication with the owner or the agent of 110 14th Avenue on this application? No. All having responded in the negative, has any member of this body conducted a site visit for the limited purpose of evaluating this application? No. All having responded in the negative, will anybody who intends to offer testimony on this issue, that includes city staff or any member of the public, including the owner or their agent, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. With that, Hetty?
If I can see.
I know, is there a reason why it's so dark? I was just letting you guys see that. You want to light them?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, this property is located at 110 14th Avenue. This is the property you can see right now, with the line down the middle, it is a duplex. The applicant has owned the property, I think since 1997? Yeah, right, okay. And has rented it out over the time. Now that they're getting towards retirement, they want to convert it back, they want to convert it to a single-family home.
Okay.
So, what they want to do, this is the original survey here. It does not show in the front that these porches stick out 5 feet. You can see these porches here. What he wants to do, if this is 5 foot from the house, is bump the porch out 5 foot. So they'll be 5 foot into the front property line, front property setback, and that will continue the whole house though too. Down below, and the whole front of the house would be 5 foot into there. As they call it, the Mohawk house, that will be removed on there. And here you can see where the old balcony is, and then where the enlarged space is. So they'll actually have a 10-foot balcony instead of a 5-foot balcony, but it's only encroaching into the front yard setback by 5 feet. Applicant actually put this together. It does show where the current structure line is, where's the proposed construction line. And it's not far off from the houses on either side of that. And then this is the proposed, very basic of what he wants to do in the future. He has not gone, beyond development phase yet until he gets this approval. But this is the general concept. It would have, garage doors and kind of clean up the whole place.
And hey, the city approved it, and then it was, the BOA passed it 5-0. Is that correct?
The BOA passed it, correct. And we didn't have any, I think, more inquiries from a neighbor on the phone, but no objections.
Does anyone have any questions for Hetty at this time? Any questions? At this time, I have the applicants come up. Is it Robert Parker?
Yes, Robert Park.
Yes. And if you would just like to give us, some of your thoughts on your variance.
Yep, well, we were really appreciative to be here tonight, especially as you were doing your Veterans Day appreciation ceremony.
I'm so happy we're here for it.
Yeah, and we'd like to extend our gratitude to all the veterans and first responders as well. But I am a boomerang. I originally moved to Indian Rocks Beach back in the 90s, and when I got married and raised some kids, we went out to the suburbs, and we're going to be empty nesters next year. We look forward to renovating the place into a single-family residence and moving back here to the community. We love Indian Rocks Beach so much. The porches on the front are very small, and we love being outdoors, and we really just want to have enough space to put like a dining room table and a little grill out there so we can enjoy the outdoors. We do hopefully intend to enclose the carports to form garages, and rather than just dropping the garage doors straight down where they are now, we'd like to come out with the balcony so that we could enclose the stairway just to make it more secure, so we don't have to leave the garage to then go out to the stairway. So we'd like to bring the garage forward as well. And we promise, no matter what you decide, we are going to shave that mohawk off the
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Parker at this time? I'm going to have you take a seat for a second. And Hetty, do you want to make any other comments before I go out to the public?
No, I'm just so you know, where this front planter is right here, that's about where the porch would come out to. Just to give it a little bit. But that's it.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this VOA case? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. If there's anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Parker, you're more than willing to come up. Yes, come on up.
Susan Parker. So as he explained, in moving out the front porch so we can actually use our outdoor space, you know, being here by the beaches, I just love the breeze and everything. And moving out the garages a little bit, they're still going to be 3 foot back from what we're doing, what we want to do with the front porch, because we need an overhang for our front door. But in doing that and moving it out so we can enclose those stairs going up and then do kind of a door downstairs, for me, coming home at nighttime, I don't want to have to walk outside at nighttime and then go upstairs. That would literally be kind of blindsided if anybody were to be there.
Okay.
So it's really important to me to have that extra security to be able to park my car in a garage and go inside my house with that garage door shut rather than coming outside and then going upstairs. So to me, it's very important for safety, along with functionality of the entire residence. Since this is where we want to retire, get older, putting in an elevator as well inside the garage. So it's just something that we really are looking at long-term for all of our functionality as we get older.
Thank you, and I apologize, it's Park, Mr. and Mrs. Park, I said Parker.
No worries.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay. With that, Hetty, anything else? I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve variance, looking for the number. 2021-11.
Thank you, Ed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And I really think the hardship stems from the building to coastal construction standards. The living area has to be elevated, and as a result, the stairwell is not in a convenient place which is safe for nighttime arrival. And I think that creates a unique hardship which warrants a slight extension setback to enclose the stairwell to be an interior stairwell.
Thank you, Ed. Joe, do you have any comments?
Not this time.
Any of the other commissioners have any comments? No. With that, Deanne, would you like to call the roll?
Commissioner Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Hausberg,
Yes.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor McCall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Yes?
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, we're going to go to 6B, BOA case number 2021-12. Randy, would you please read?
Happily, Madam Mayor, Board of Adjustment case number 2021-12 for 381 La Hacienda Drive, considering the variance request from section 110-131 sub 1 sub f sub 2 of the Code of Ordinances of 13 feet into the required 25-foot rear yard setback, resulting in a total rear yard setback of 12 feet to allow for a covered porch on the rear of the house for the property located at 381 La Hacienda Drive, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and legally described as La Hacienda, First Edition, Lot 56, and part of Water Lot C in front of parcel number 07-3015-47394-000-0560. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Have any of the members had any ex parte communications with the property owner or their agent in this proceedings?
No.
No. Having all responded in the negative, has this body conducted a site visit for the limited purpose of evaluating the application before you this evening?
No.
All having responded in the negative, will anybody who intends to offer any testimony before this body, if you plan to speak, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. With that, Hetty?
The property is located at 381 381 La Hacienda Drive at the end of La Hacienda. To see a little better close-up of the property. What they want to do is add a screened-in porch on the back. Right now, here's the pool, and they want to add it over in this area over here on that. Actually, that removed wooden deck is actually a pool now. This screened patio area is not really a screened area. It's open with furniture in it. But they want to go a 13 by 24 foot covered patio area. This is the area in the back of the house that they wish to cover, where they sit outside and, want to eat outside and grill outside. This is kind of a little bit more perspective of the backyard. You can see where the pool is, and this is the undercover area here. That's that screen porch on the original plans. And this is a picture from the water. And this is from the other angle. This is what it looked like before they bought it. I just have to throw that in there. But on that, this is, not allowed per code. Don't really see a hardship for it on this case. The staff recommended denial, and the Board of Adjustment recommended denial on a vote of 5-0.
Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions for Eddie at this time before I bring up the applicant?
No.
Any questions? Chris Trumbull, would you please come up, our applicant, just to kind of, and Lydia, both of you want to, yes, come up.
Good evening, Commissioners and Ms. Mayor. Thank you very much for hearing us today.
Would you mind lowering the mic, just it's easier for the clerk when she makes the
Are you
minutes.
insinuating I'm short?
No, the mic was just too high, outrageously so.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time this evening and for your service, and also for the lovely recognition of our veterans. We really enjoyed that. So just a little bit of background. I know that Hetty had mentioned, and thank you for working with us, Hetty. You've been awesome. You had mentioned that it's a screened pavilion or porch. We don't want to screen it. It's all going to be open. So I just wanted to add that. But we purchased our home, and I'm going to read from my notes if you guys don't mind. I don't want to miss the important points like cooking and eating. So we purchased our home in 2019, and have basically brought the original home down to studs and rebuilt it, keeping in the style and the originality from when it was built in the late 60s. The original home did have a raised wooden deck, which Hetty was kind enough to add that picture to it. So as you can see, we have actually removed it, and in its place we added an in-the-ground pool located directly off the covered seating area that you can see from the photo. We also installed a spa, which is located at the south side of the backyard, so at the opposite end of the pool. The location of the backyard lot is actually facing southeastern exposure. As a result, we have full sun all day long, which is great for heating our pool, but awful for being able to enjoy a meal outside or even barbecuing. We would like to kindly ask the board for this 13-foot variance to install support columns for a covered pavilion. It would just be support columns alone with a covered roof area. This variance would enable us to make the most out of our backyard. We've spent so much money on this home, and it really has been a labor of love. We were homeless for almost a year before we actually bought an IRB again after selling our townhome. And to me, that is our hardship, that we're not able to really enjoy our backyard to the fullest extent that we possibly can due to the space and, of course, the southeastern exposure. So we would like to kindly ask for your blessing in this 13-foot variance. This variance would enable us to make the most out of our backyard. As I stated before, currently we're not comfortable sitting outside, especially 8 months out of the year, to be able to dine. Well, my husband and I often have our family, our elderly parents, over for a cookout, and essentially that side of our backyard is rendered useless due to the Florida sun. Building a shade pavilion would enable us to comfortably, with our folks, utilize this part of our yard with a comfortable seating area cooking and most importantly eating area. I'm Italian, so it's very important that I'm able to cook my all-day sauce on Sunday outside. And rest assured, we will not build an enclosed pavilion. We merely just want some relief from the sun. Our lot is located at the end of La Hacienda Drive on the cul-de-sac, which is quite a unique area. As a matter of fact, Hetty had mentioned we're at the end of the finger. In a sense, we are located at the bend of the finger, which will not obstruct either of our neighbors' view to the north or south of us. We also have gathered signatures and a letter from one of our neighbors nearby that they do not object to our project and that this variance would not deprive our neighbors of use and full enjoyment of their own properties. I would like to refer to the aerial photo of our lot location to show you how exposed not only we are to the sun, but also to the wind as well. The wind really does come ripping across the water there because we really are full exposure. We basically have a view, if you go down to my dock, from bridge to bridge, being the Walsingham Bridge, all the way down to the Bel Air Bridge. We've tried everything from umbrellas to sun sails, only to have them broken or having to fish them out of the intercoastal, which is really funny to see my husband do. But because of our point of location on the bend, we have to fish a lot of things out of the intercoastal. I want to thank you in advance for your consideration in this request this evening. Without this variance, we will not be able to enjoy the full potential of our backyard. And again, thank you very much for hearing us out.
Thank you.
Before you sit down, does anyone have any questions for Trumbull at all? Hetty, do you want to add anything?
Not at this time.
Okay, and then I'll have you sit, and then we'll go out to the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to come up at this time? We'll open the public comments. Hearing none, we'll close the public comments. Is there anything else that you two would like to add to your presentation?
Thank you.
Hetty, anything else?
No.
Okay, with that, is there a motion concerning this variance?
I guess, Hetty, I have a question. Why is it not a hardship?
So, staff has, you can ask what staff's reasoning was for
Yeah.
its determination,
Yes.
but ultimately the determination of whether or not there's a hardship on the property is for this body to determine.
Okay.
So if you're asking, if staff has said one of the elements it did not find satisfied was this, and you're asking, it's just in tailoring the question.
Okay.
The definitive nature of it makes it seem like it is or it isn't. You're receiving testimony from staff that it isn't, you've received testimony presumptively from the applicant that it is, and so if you're asking for them to clarify that, you can, but saying why is it or is it not? It's just,
Okay.
I know it seems,
Yeah, I guess then just can you clarify the board's decision?
well, the board's decision speaks for itself in the minutes.
Okay.
But as far as staff's finding on that, staff can speak to its findings. So Hetty, if you have a rationale for that element of your report or what your report states about it that you wish to restate, feel free to do so.
What I can say is that these rules have been in place for, since 1981 about nothing being vertical or anything in the back, rear yard setback. I feel that, that's what our code says on it, and we've been holding that with everybody too, on it, that they cannot, extend into the rear yard setback. I've got another case coming next month too, same thing, so.
And our advice, you've been advised in the past by my office and otherwise that hardship is a hardship to the land, and the staff has stated in its previous report that there was not a unique feature of the land at issue for the relief sought here.
I have questions for Hetty also. If the petition was for like one of those sunsetter awnings that are retractable, would that also require a variance?
Those are supposed to be retractable and temporary.
Correct.
And
But I'm
you
saying.
can pull them in.
I know, I understand.
And without a permanent post down.
I was just asking, would that require a variance? So this requires a variance because of the columns
The
and
structure.
the footers, correct?
The permanency.
But a sunsetter, like one of those ones you see on TV, that
Mhm.
would not necessarily require a variance.
No,
That would not.
no, just like, you know, if you had a sail, but you put it up and down, you know, that type
I'm
of.
talking about the aluminum
Yeah, I know.
retractable one that goes to.
Mhm.
That would not require a variance.
And that's been an option that I have discussed with people too.
Yeah.
Joe?
I don't know.
And I appreciate Hays' comments, but if I'm not mistaken, we have made concessions to these pie-shaped lots before.
Right.
I think actually on the Lassie end, if I'm not mistaken, just a few months back, into probably about the same setback.
And it's my duty to
And
remind
I
you,
know.
variance is unique to each property and.
To
there's
each
no-
property, but pie-shaped lots do create advantages and disadvantages in my opinion. This particular property, is on the point. You know, like I say, it's, I don't know.
Ed?
I think what Joe's maybe thinking, and I see the property line is curvilinear on the back, right? So if it were rectangular, the right and left corners would extend out another 5 feet. You know, if you could draw a line tangent to the dock, you see that there's a point in the middle of the property where the property is longer than it is on the right and left side. So, and the house is angled such that it doesn't necessarily get the full benefit of that shape of the lot. So I think, you know, if the hardship is created by the shape of the lot would be the restriction on the north and south sides of the boundary points because of the curvilinear nature of the property. I think that's something unique to the property itself, not to the house or to the petitioner's request.
So procedurally, the body, obviously, you're free to continue discussing, or if there's a motion to be made, it would be appropriate for a motion to be made at this time. Either way, it's your hearing.
Any questions? Any? Yes, Phil?
Okay, I own one of the Sunsetters, and when we extended our porch out, it's open, and part of the reason for it being open was so that our neighbors could see through and to the water. Depending on how this goes, I can tell you that I'm very happy with the Sunsetter, and that it does work well, and it is retractable. So, you know, if something happens, certainly consider that as an option. And I don't know if structurally your property you can mount right to your house, or if you have to build a little something out, but it certainly wouldn't be that far in the setback to support it. But I just thought I'd just make that clear.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
Come on, I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
We had Sunsetter and a few other companies come by that did similar projects, and they said they would have to reinforce that portion, upper portion of my house where that would attach, because of the size I'm looking for, there would be so much weight that without support out front, that it would just be too much weight on my house, and they couldn't guarantee that in even a mild wind, that the movement of that shade would not tear part of my house off. They have Sunsetters that come out and have legs that come down, and they said we don't recommend them just because they don't really support that much. They would tend to wobble, and so I mean that option for me would require almost as much expense to do what I'm trying to do this way, and I would risk having damage to my home that I would have to repair anyway. The insurance wouldn't cover.
Yes, sir.
I want to respond to that. I've had mine for 10 years. I have a $100 investment that fits on the rail, and when the wind gets up to 30 miles per hour, look and shake it like that. When the wind does that, it automatically retracts back in, and it's simply bolted into the header of my porch.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come and look at it, but again, just a thought.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll jump in with both feet.
Yes.
Have a motion to approve ordinance,
Board of Adjustment case 2021-12.
Board of Adjustment case 2021-12.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion second. Is there any comments from the maker?
As Ed more eloquently pointed out, like I say, I do believe the shape of the lot does come into play. And I do appreciate with the temporary shade structure in our weather and or wind, don't fare real well, we'll say. Just this last, my neighbor lost all three of his sail shades out back with just our mild little wind last Saturday.
Yeah.
And that was not a storm, that was nothing,
Yeah.
right? Just wind off the Gulf. And it did do damage to his house and so forth. So just my thought, like I say, this particular lot, I don't see any hindrance to either neighbor as far as a view. They've all signed that they're okay. And that's my thought process.
Thank you, Joan.
I mean, I kind of feel like Joe does. It's like it's a way for them to enjoy their investment and to really use their backyard. I mean, none of us sit out in the sun all day long and try to eat dinner in the sun.
Phil, anything?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Ed?
No, I think I've tried to articulate the hardship involved and the seeming contradiction that a retractable device would be okay and a permanent device is not okay. It seems to be a contradiction in logic to me.
Okay, all right. With that, Deanne, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Hannon,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoofnagel,
Yeah.
Commissioner Hausberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCall,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. Good luck on it. You know, it's interesting because you saw the beginning of the house when they bought it, it was just debacle, you know? And so then now after all the work that they've done, so good luck on your house and all your cooking, mind you.
Thank you. Commissioner, party's at my house then.
Maybe we could have a discussion at some point
I
in the
would like
future
to.
about rear setbacks.
Yes.
And especially on non-standard lots. That might make
I
sense.
think that's a great thing.
Maybe planning and zoning might want to think through that and come back to it. I know we have to have a workshop, but
Okay. We will go to 6C, ordinance number 2021-06. Randy, would you please read the first public hearing?
Happily, Madam Mayor, this is City of Indian Rocks Beach ordinance number 2021-06. An ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, providing for amendments to the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 110 zoning, Article 1 in general, Section 110-344, swimming pools and spas, increasing the maximum length of permissible waterfall features in swimming pools and spas, providing for appeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This has been a first reading of ordinance number 2021-06 by title only. Commissioners, you may recall you've had at least two variance applications for waterfall features in attendant to a pool or spa. Your code presently limits the width of such feature to 6 feet. We are exclusively talking about width. There were no variances for the height or other elements or volume of, cubic whatever's just the width. Presently, it's limited to 6 feet. This body suggested to staff that some reconsideration be made since we'd seen more than one variance of the same type with little controversy. The other concern was on one of the applications, the Board of Adjustment had provided the feedback that they did not feel the variance criteria were met, but did not see the reason for the restriction itself, and perhaps that the body reconsider. This did go before the LPA for evaluation of consistency with the comprehensive plan. The ordinance was deemed consistent with the comprehensive plan. However, some of the members of the LPA, and it was their consensus to relay this concern, relayed the concern that your code presently does not allow for fences of certain opacity, shrubbery that may, or hedges that would obscure side and rear views of waterfront properties as a way of everybody enjoying the beauty of your community, and felt that a 12-foot waterfall feature would be a way of accomplishing what you cannot otherwise accomplish with a fence, a hedge, or otherwise. And so the advice or the advisory opinion of the body was, while the ordinance is consistent with the comprehensive plan, that the commission consider whether it wishes to amend the ordinance. It has not been amended yet. Amend the ordinance in its current form to allow for 6 feet, or rather to allow for an increase of not to exceed 12 feet where the waterfall feature is adjacent to the rear of the home, but not where the waterfall feature is placed adjacent to the side or rear yard line setbacks, meaning if you're adjacent to the waterfront or on either side where your neighbor would be seeing the rear of your waterfall feature. This one is sort of catty-cornered, which, that kind of presents a challenge in terms of how you're going to define what is rear or adjacent to the home, what percentage of it has to be where. However, that is what has been recommended, but the current form just takes the number 6 and strikes it to 12, and it's for this body to discuss how it wishes to proceed. And apart from that context, I will throw it to Hetty if there's anything else you wish to add.
Hetty, before you go, I had a discussion with Greg about this, and we were kind of talking, do you want to let Hetty go ahead and present it, or do you want to kind of talk about a little bit different wording?
Yeah.
Let her start? Okay, all right, go ahead, Hetty.
Okay, this thing, like what Randy said, they wanted it just on the back side of, that abutted the house. They did not want anything on the front side that was on the water side. Apparently, in some other communities, they have seen, waterfalls on that thing. That's mostly that it would be more of a visual block on it. I mean, we do allow them up to 4 feet in height. I mean, we're not asking to increase the height, it's just the length. But, I mean, this one works nice because it steps down, too, and the corner here. Now, if you had, and actually, if it was solid all the way, most of the people have, they have a fence and they have chips, there. So, I don't know if it would really affect the neighbors.
And I just want to reiterate, because this became a bit of a point of discussion in the LPA. This is a demonstrative of one example. We are not showing you what every single waterfall will look like, or reanalyzing what we like or don't like about this particular waterfall. It is offered as a demonstrative of what one could do. The other concern voiced relative to opacity of the view was the side, as spoken before, where the pie-shaped lot is inverted, and you have narrower lots. 12 feet on 50 feet, as one of them gave an example, is a significant portion of the rear yard, where they'd be able to build something of that sort. And those were the consistency in parallel regulation was the core concern in making this recommendation. So at this point, the ordinance, we are on first reading. You can go with it as it is and say thanks, noted, and move right along. You can discuss making an amendment. You can just see where the conversation goes and determine if we need to move first reading to another time while we work the language. As always, you are not, I should say, whereas I kept reading before that you are a quasi-judicial and you're not making the law, here you're making the law. It's whose land is it anyway? It's up to you what it means and what it says and when we give it that import. And so it's at this point it is yours to work with as the legislative body.
I want Greg to kind of, we had a conversation today about
Yeah,
this.
I've had further conversations with Eddie and Randy about this. 2 variance requests for the extension of this whole waterfall issue. It was from the same contractor, and both variances were approved. The reality is when we stay with 6 or 12, they still have to meet the height limit, which is 4 feet. I said, like Randy said, I think the only concern the LPA had was you picture the waterfront backyard on the intercoastal was to have a provision, their thoughts was to have a provision in there where they could build it right along like the seawall, you know. But technically, you know, you do fences, you do different things. My biggest issue with this, and I apologize for not being at the meeting where y'all talked about this at length, is it concerns me a little bit that we're amending the city code over 2 variance requests. But in the real world, as Ed Hipnagle would say, whether it's 6 feet or 12 feet, probably doesn't make a lot of difference. And the reality of it is, I mean, look at the picture that you're looking at up there, where we're talking about setbacks. That structure on the lot next door is not legal.
Right.
And the other thing is, I had somebody, well, y'all remember a couple of years ago, we had an individual that was raising Cain about his neighbor and put up a fence, planting a bunch of actually, it wasn't a fence, it was trees.
Yeah.
And we got into the whole thing, and I will just tell you publicly, because we all know it, so I'll just say that, is that if we went and surveyed every waterfront property in Ross Beach, particularly the ones back up to Intercoastal, probably 90% violate the code on heights and where things are, which I think is a good point back to what Ed said earlier, is that sometime later, it'd probably be a good idea to have a conversation about that. So back to what you're doing with, it's probably is a legitimate thing to discuss while you're discussing it, about if you want to place a restriction where they can't put these things up and down the seawall, because if you do a fence up to a certain height, it has to be where you can see through it, like visible, and of course people will plant shrubs or whatever. But that is really my only comments is, do we really need to do this? If you do it, just do the 12 feet and maybe put some language in there. And if you want, Randy and Henny and I, we can work on it before the final reading is maybe add some language about the restriction about not building down the seawall. But, you know, my 35 plus years of being a planner and being a city administrative manager, just have to be careful to amend codes when you've not really had a lot of issues. You know, I mentioned the cookie, and I promised my last comment is that, you know, I would add to what Ed said earlier, we really, one of the things we really need to spend some time on is as far as workshop, is have a lengthy discussion about dock variances. Because the county now is going to do a system where if you meet certain criteria and your neighbors sign off on your request, those things are handled administratively. They don't even go to, and I think we've got 3 more docks coming out that y'all are going to get for, it's our Christmas present to y'all is 3 dock requests in December. But back to this, so really the issue is 6 to 12, and if you want to put any restrictions on where somebody doesn't build these things out along the seawall.
Okay, does anyone have any questions before I go to public comment? Anyone have any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to open the public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak on ordinance number 2021-06? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comments. Hetty, anything else that you want to add before I go for some kind of a motion or any motion?
I mean, I've only seen a couple waterfalls, just so you know that. I mean, probably these 2 in 3 or 4 years that I've been looking at the pool. So, I saw one that wanted to do one about this high, and then they didn't do it. But this has been it.
Ed?
So, yeah, I would like to motion to approve ordinance 2021-06 and have it amended to prohibit synthetic fences or architecture on the seawall.
Near the seawall. Okay, good.
On the seawall or near the, yeah. whatever the proper language would be.
All right.
But-
Is-
Yeah, oh, sorry, that's it.
No, no, you're fine.
No,
Is there a second?
And Commissioner Hufnagel, I didn't hear you.
I wanted to have it amended to prohibit construction of the waterfall along a seawall or to be a synthetic fence, in other words, blocking line of sight,
Okay,
over and above the existing line.
and
of
what
sight.
about beachfront property owners?
That's what,
Golf front property owners?
yeah, no, that's, they have seawalls too, so, and post-construction lines.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other
Joe
comments?
McCall?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about that.
I just felt we had a hard time dealing with hardships, and we approved both of these variances because we had a hard time differentiating the hardship between the 6 and the 12-foot
Right.
long waterfall, and I felt like it was an inefficient use of our time to debate 3 feet on each side of the waterfall. Anyway, that's why it got to this point.
Joe, any comments? Any of the other commissioners? Any comments? Bill?
I agree with Greg. I mean, we only had 2 of these things, and how many are we gonna have? I'm okay. They're still gotta come and show you what they're gonna build. And I don't think that 12 feet, 6 feet, Randy brought up a lot of good points, how it runs with the property, and, I mean, I think there's a lot more specifications that need to be into this before we just vote on something. As long as we've got that caveat, they gotta come back and see us, which they do, then, we have that time, but.
No, that's not correct.
Yeah, if you pass this ordinance, this will be handled administratively, the commission won't be
Okay.
involved in this.
Okay, with that, Deanne, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hannah,
No.
Commissioner Houseworth? No. Vice Mayor McCall?
Yes.
Commissioner Hufnagel?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes. Motion carries 3-2. And you'll bring us back a little different wording on that. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to go to other legislative matters, 7A, which is ordinance number 2021-07. This is a first reading. Randy, would you please read this?
Happily, Madam Mayor. This is ordinance number 2021-077, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 90 of the Code of Ordinances to provide criteria for accessory structures in flood hazard areas, to not permit installation of manufactured homes and recreational vehicles in flood hazard areas, in line with regulatory directives, providing for applicability, codification, and severability, and providing for an effective date. This is a first reading ordinance number 2021-07.
Thank you. And is there, Greg, will you make any comments, or is this Hetty, you're going to make the comments on this?
Basically, we worked on this code with, but first we did an auto adopt with our ordinance as it was written in 2014. And then they came back and FEMA said, no, you mentioned manufactured housing in there. So, and that has to be removed or specified. So that was why we had to redo this. And we worked with the emergency management people who then corresponded with FEMA. And we removed the reference to manufactured homes, except stating they are not allowed. Now, I was concerned because I tell people we can have them. I say manufactured, I mean off-site constructed and brought in and put on, to meet the flood regulation. So I was adamant about making this clear in here. And that the actual manufactured buildings are allowed. And they are defined in the building code that way too. The Florida Building Code, they are defined in there. So it is a definition and it is allowed, through the Florida Building Code on that. So that, we cleaned up that. We also, they wanted us to address the accessory structures. And most of them, we added a definition of it. And most of them, what they were talking about was garages, like 600 square feet that they had to put vents in. And I said, we only allow them 120 feet, they go in the backyard, you know, for storage. And do they have to have those vents? Because a lot of people just go down to Home Depot and buy something and, you know, bring it in. And we really don't, I mean, they come and talk to Mike Kelly about putting a shed in, because most of those don't need building permits on that. The county doesn't even look at them. So they are clarifying that term with, if we need it with FEMA, and hopefully we'll have an answer by next month on the second reading. And he's asked like 3 times already, if we need it. So that's the one thing that's probably still a little bit up in the air. And then they redefined market values. That was a definition that came from Pinellas County. And then while they were at it, they said we might as well clean this up. And removed references to development in water courses and floodways, which we do not have any in the city. So that's pretty much what was accomplished on this update on this ordinance.
Yes.
95% of what you read, there's not a lot of changes in it. 95% of those are all FEMA mandated. We communicated with them for over a year. We sent a draft to the state and to FEMA, and this may be a shock to you that there are a lot of federal people that weren't working during COVID. And the next thing I know, I get a letter, I think Pat Cookie got a letter from some person out of DC that said they were going to suspend our flood insurance because we had not complied. Of course, I immediately responded and I said, well, that's not correct. We replied 2 months before your deadline, and then the response was, oh, that's right, the person that was handling that was working out of their house, and I guess I didn't get the letter. So we're actually behind. This is seriously back to what this is a federal mandates, and there's a reference in there for the floodplain administrators.
Right.
And that's officially designated now as the Public Services Director. Dean's done that. Dean's done a great job for us, and whoever's in that position in the future will do that. So it's mostly federally mandated with some minor tweaks that we had to clean up. Who internally handles what inside the city.
Thank you. Is there anyone that has any other questions for the city manager or Hetty? Basically, like they said, this is a mandate from FEMA, and we've made the changes that are necessary. Is everybody, we're all good with that? Everybody good with that? Any questions? Ed? Okay. With that, then I'm going to open the public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this issue at this time? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Anything else?
I'll just address, I think Commissioner Hanna received an email from a Harbor Drive resident that somehow read into this that people would not be allowed to pull their motorhome or their camper in their driveway and load it up and go camping. This has no effect on that now. Because we already have another provision in the ordinance. If you pull a motorhome or camper and you attempt to live out of it, that's illegal anyway, and we deal with that. But I just want to make clear that this doesn't affect people coming and going or doing any of that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Greg. Does anyone have a motion?
Motion to approve 2021-07.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. With that, is there any comments from the maker or the second? Any of the other commissioners?
Just
Anyone?
Hetty, thank you for making sure that the modular homes got included.
Yes.
Right, well, it's
Manufactured, those are like mobile homes. Modular homes are buildings that maybe built in Plant City and shipped down.
Right, yeah. No
Thank you
mobile.
for not prohibiting that. Good call.
I worked on the difference on the ordinance 40 years ago.
I affectionately refer to those as condominiums.
Right, yes.
All right, with that, Dan, would you call the roll?
Vice Mayor McCall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hausberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanna,
Yes.
Commissioner Hufnagel,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. With that, we will go to our work session items, which is the item that you would like to present. Ed.
So in any other place in the world after that workshop, I could have asked you, at the end, you said you wanted to support the county, and then we adjourned the meeting. I've learned over the years that when someone says something like that, maybe there's more on their mind. So I can't call you in between meetings and say, hey, what was on your mind when you said you really wanted to go with the county's height recommendations? And so I was curious because I value your opinion.
You know what, it was a gut, it's just a gut feeling through all the conversation, all the involvement that we had with the county, all the things, the changes that they're making, and I didn't like how it was FEMA that they lowered standards, their dates were not as up to date in working on the plan. And something just told me inside that I just had a gut feeling about it, and that's why I voted. I don't think either way will hurt us. I don't think we're going to be hurt by it. I just felt that the county plan, I felt would be better for us. And I may be wrong, and that was why I voted for it.
Okay. One thing I thought about after that workshop was if we were to go down the path of adopting the county's loss assessment heights, what would that mean for the overall building heights? Would we have to raise those for the differential that, so let's say that FEMA was 10 and the county became 12, does that mean we would go from whatever, 59 to 61 or, 47 to 49? Would it raise the whole thing?
I don't think so. Penny, is that
No, it's still 35 feet from the
still
town of
35?
the road.
Yeah.
So it would basically shrink the ceiling heights for people. So we would kind of be
Well,
hurting people.
most people, unless they, your 9-foot, 10-foot elevation is, grade is at maybe 4 or 5, the count of the road. So you're already gonna be 3 feet above that to get the garage underneath, so.
Greg?
Since you brought this up, I will tell you that after the meeting, I've had at least 4 different long-time business people in town, one that we discussed earlier, that have real concerns about going with the county standards and the impact on development and cost, and those kind of things. So I just want to share that with you, that there's concern out there. The county's have work sessions and meetings and discussions at city commission meetings, and there are concerns for people that build commercial particularly. That it may sound minor, but the differences between the FEMA, looking at the FEMA study, and if you implement the county, there is local concern about that.
I did ask, because this has gone to all the commissions around, and it was all over. And so that's why I was wanted to hear what our commission would do. But, so maybe it was better that I lost that vote, and it was 4-1, seeing that, as far as the businesses, that, I hadn't thought of that, as far as the businesses go, so, but I did, it was all over the board as far as the other cities that we had talked to, and I think, Greg, you said that too, that some of the ones you had talked to, I don't know, Hetty, what that is.
Yeah, it's everybody's struggling with it.
Yeah.
And I can't give you an up-to-date report of who's done what, but ultimately, we need to do what our meetings do. We don't
Well, yeah,
worry too much about it.
I agree with that, and that's a problem then if it's the businesses and if they feel like that, and if that's the truth with the county one. So then I'm glad that you did vote 4-1, and you guys voted against it.
No, I'm sure that this topic's going to come up again in terms of changes to FEMA. I was just curious, and like I said, the sunshine law doesn't want me calling up and saying, hey, keep this on your mind.
No, it was a good thing, and, I go with my gut.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
And so that was why I did that. Any other business to come before this board tonight? Hearing none, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good luck.